Overthinking is like a storm within the mind, a constant chatter that never seems to quiet down. It steals our peace, traps us in endless loops of doubt, and prevents us from truly living in the moment. But what if the key to breaking free isn't to fight our thoughts, but to understand them? These 3 powerful Zen-inspired stories will guide you towards a calmer, more mindful existence, helping you learn how to let go, embrace stillness, and stop overthinking. High in the misty mountains of Kyoto, where the cherry blossoms danced with the wind and the rivers sang their endless songs, there stood a secluded Zen monastery. It was a place of tranquility, where monks devoted their days to meditation, reflection, and the pursuit of enlightenment. Among them was a young monk named Kaito. Unlike the others, who seemed to move with a natural grace and peace, Kaito was burdened. His mind was a battlefield, and he was its only soldier, fighting endless wars against his own thoughts. From the moment he woke until he closed his eyes at night, his mind never rested. Did I bow correctly during morning prayers? What if I never reach enlightenment? Did I say the wrong thing to Master Ryo yesterday? Even in stillness, his mind raced. He tried meditating, yet the more he attempted to silence his thoughts, the louder they seemed to grow. One evening, after yet another restless day, Kaito sat alone in the monastery garden, staring at the koi pond. The moon reflected on its surface like a silver mirror, but each time the wind blew, ripples shattered the perfect reflection. He sighed in frustration. Why can't my mind be as still as this water? Sensing his distress, Master Ryo, the head monk, approached quietly and sat beside him. "Kaito," he said gently, "your heart is heavy. Tell me, what troubles you?" Kaito hesitated before speaking. "Master, my mind is restless. No matter how much I try to control my thoughts, they refuse to be silenced. I overthink everything, every action, every word, every decision. Even now, as we speak, I am analyzing whether my words are wise enough, if my posture is respectful enough. It never stops." Master Ryo nodded knowingly. He reached down, picked up a small leaf, and dropped it onto the surface of the pond. The leaf floated gently for a moment, but then a soft breeze passed, creating ripples that pushed the leaf in random directions. "This pond," Master Ryo said, "is like your mind. The thoughts that disturb you are the ripples. When you struggle against them, they only grow stronger." Kaito frowned. "But how do I stop them? How do I quiet my mind?" Master Ryo picked up another leaf and handed it to Kaito. "Drop this into the water." Kaito obeyed, watching the leaf land on the surface. At first, the ripples formed again, but he did not interfere. He simply observed. Slowly, the water settled, and the leaf floated peacefully. "Do you see?" Master Ryo smiled. "The mind, like water, returns to stillness when left undisturbed. Overthinking is not a force to fight, it is a wave to observe. The secret is not in controlling your thoughts, but in trusting that they will settle on their own." Kaito sat in silence, absorbing the lesson. That night, as he lay in his bed, he did not try to force his mind into stillness. Instead, he let his thoughts come and go, like leaves drifting on a pond. And for the first time in his life, he felt at peace. In a small coastal village where the sky kissed the sea and the waves whispered ancient secrets, lived a fisherman named Haru. He was known for his skill in catching fish, but he had one great flaw. He was a chronic overthinker. Every morning, as he set out in his small wooden boat, his mind swirled with worries. What if the tide is too strong today? What if I don't catch anything? What if I chose the wrong fishing spot? Even when he caught fish, he wondered, could I have caught more if I had gone farther? His mind was never at rest. One morning, as the golden sun painted the sky with hues of orange and pink, Haru prepared to cast his net. But when he pulled it up, he saw that it was tangled in tight knots. His frustration boiled over. This always happens. Why didn't I check my net before leaving? He sat in his boat, staring at the knots, paralyzed by his thoughts. An old fisherman named Takeshi, who had been watching from his own boat, rowed over with a calm smile. "What troubles you, Haru?" "My net is ruined," Haru grumbled, "and now I've lost precious time." Takeshi nodded and held up his own net. It was perfectly smooth, without a single tangle. "How do you keep your net so perfect?" Haru asked. Takeshi chuckled. "I don't." Haru frowned in confusion. Takeshi continued, Every fisherman's net gets tangled eventually, but I don't waste time complaining about the knots. I simply untie them." He watched as Haru sat frozen, staring at his net. "The longer you sit and think about the problem, the tighter the knots become. Instead of overthinking, start untying." Haru hesitated, then slowly began to work on the knots. To his surprise, it was easier than he had feared. Within minutes, the net was smooth again. Takeshi smiled. "Overthinking is like this net. The more you focus on your fears, the worse they seem. But if you take action, one step at a time, you'll find the solution was always within reach." From that day on, whenever Haru caught himself overthinking, he would remind himself, "Stop staring at the knots, just start untying them." One evening, a wise teacher named May gathered her students in a quiet garden under the soft glow of lanterns. She held up a clear glass of water and asked, "How heavy is this glass?" The students exchanged puzzled glances before responding. 8 ounces, said one. 12 ounces, guessed another. 16, maybe? May smiled and shook her head. "The absolute weight of this glass does not matter. What matters is how long I hold it." She lifted the glass higher. "If I hold this for a minute, it feels light. If I hold it for an hour, my arm will start to ache. If I hold it for an entire day, my arm will feel numb and paralyzed. The weight of the glass never changes, but the longer I hold it, the heavier it feels." The students nodded, but May could see they were still unsure of the lesson. She continued, "Now think of this glass as your worries, your doubts, your regrets." May placed the glass down gently on a small wooden table beside her. "The solution is simple," she said. "Put the glass down." A young woman named Lynn, who often struggled with overthinking, spoke up. "But teacher, sometimes I feel like I can't put my thoughts down. They follow me everywhere." May nodded. "Imagine you are walking through a vast forest and you come across a heavy rock. You pick it up and carry it. Soon it weighs you down, and yet you continue carrying it." Lynn frowned. "But why would I keep carrying it if it's hurting me?" May smiled. "Exactly, that is what overthinking does to us." Lynn's eyes widened. "But how do I actually let go?" May lifted the glass again. "First, recognize you're holding it. Awareness is the first step." She then placed it down. "Then make a conscious choice to release it." That night, Lynn imagined setting her worries down like placing a heavy book on a shelf, and for the first time in a long time, she drifted into peaceful sleep. These 3 stories all convey profound lessons on how to manage overthinking and find peace through simplicity, awareness, and letting go. In the first story, The Monk and the Floating Leaf, Kaito, a young monk, struggles with an overactive mind filled with worries and endless thoughts. Seeking guidance from Master Ryo, he learns that trying to control his thoughts is like fighting ripples in a pond. The key is to let thoughts come and go, much like leaves floating on the water, trusting that the mind will naturally settle when not disturbed. This lesson teaches the importance of acceptance and non-resistance. The wise fisherman and the tangled net follows Haru, a fisherman paralyzed by overthinking. When his fishing net gets tangled, he becomes overwhelmed with frustration. An elder fisherman, Takeshi, teaches him that focusing on the problem only makes it worse. Instead, by taking action and untangling the net step by step, Haru finds the solution is within reach. This story emphasizes the value of focusing on the present and taking small, deliberate actions rather than getting lost in overanalysis. In The Glass of Water and the Weight of Thoughts, May, a wise teacher, uses a simple metaphor of holding a glass to illustrate the weight of our worries. The longer we hold on to them, the heavier they feel. By recognizing and releasing these burdens, much like setting down the glass, we can free ourselves from the paralysis of overthinking. May encourages her students to practice awareness and consciously let go of their mental burdens, bringing lightness and peace to their minds. Collectively, these stories show that overthinking can be managed by observing thoughts without resistance, taking action in the present moment, and letting go of unnecessary mental burdens to find inner peace.